of the day is definitely going to qualify. We've got Astralis versus Parabellum. Let's talk about it. Let's dive right in. Now, Astralis coming off of a close, narrow win over Beast Coast, had to do it in overtime, 8-6. Meanwhile, Parabellum coming in with a loss, 5-7 to Dark Zero. Both teams still fairly even the standings, all Astralis. I'm going to call them the Pokemon team, because as far as like win types, they got to catch them all. 1-1-1-1.
That they do. Astralis, maybe they didn't want to have the win that they had last week. It was very stressful. We'll say that on Villa against Beast Coast, and it really was forced, putting up an MVP performance, having a ton of kills, 22, the most in NAL history, to bail that team out of a really rough game. Astralis need everybody else to step up. Realistically, you can take a look at Astralis and talk about their previous results, and that's great, but this stage, they have 3 players, Shuttle, DP Fire, and Jin I know, who just have not been there for the team, and it's a lot on Iconic, it's a lot on Force to try to dig them out of that. We've got to see a team performance in this game today.
Same thing with Parabellum. It's interesting, and we're going to get most of your take as that goes on too, but I look at them playing them. They play Border for the 3rd time in a row, lose it, and then go to a map that they haven't won this entire year, and then also can't get the victory there. So it's 2 very different sides of what is still a 2-2 coin, technically, for both teams, who suddenly are also deadlocked from a stats perspective. So even if this looks like 7th place versus 8th place, this is actually a pretty tight contest.
Yeah, and the head-to-head's 1-1 as well. So
exactly.
This is going to see who takes the series, I guess, for the year.
For the whole year, yeah.
The NAL championship between Astralis and Parabellum, at least. But let's zero in on Astralis a little bit first. Now, this is a team that we just talked about going 1-1-1-1. So a little bit of everything. Again, I think the most they're probably thinking about coming into this one is they don't want to have another situation like they did against Beast Coast last week. They know that should have been a 3-point affair. They should have been able to do it in regulation. They couldn't do it. They're coming in this week, I think, with a vengeance. Let's check out a video to see what their thoughts are.
I expect myself to have a lot better performance, like a career performance for me, I guess.
Win it all.
Greatness. All right, I expect a great performance about myself individually and our team as a whole.
Explosiveness.
Just to do like the best that everybody possibly can. Like at the end of the day, just say like, if you gave the max amount of effort you had, like then whatever happens, happens.
Win it all with me.
Greatness. First again, the 3-time.
Selfless.
What's gonna help us have like the most success in stage 3 that we've been working on in the off season is like entirely believing in like your teammates and yourself to like do the right thing in the moment, you know? Like we're a very in the moment team. What we've been, you know, working towards is like figuring out like what to do when a specific situation happens.
I feel like all I see is improvement and progress, you know. The first team, we didn't have that much success, so we kind of had to rebuild, find our new footing. I feel like we found that footing and we've just been kind of improving, learning what makes us good, learning what makes us bad, learning how to fix the things that make us bad, and just kind of build as a team. And I feel like that's one of the best things about this environment. It's a real team environment. You know, we're here to make each other better. We're here to build each other up, and I feel like that's the best environment to be in.
I think for us, like the biggest changes from stage 2 to stage 3 is going to be, I think it's more of us adjusting to other teams, changing their play style, because that's one of the biggest notices I've seen, like from stage 1 to stage 3 is like every team is starting to play more and more, like not like us, because I don't like want to say people play like us. That's stupid, but I think like they do a lot of more similar things that we do in terms of play style. Like they add things to their own play style. So I feel like that's the biggest adjustment to us, like getting used to teams doing like aggressive play, like doing things we like to do. And like for stage 1 for us, like every team besides Xhead played really slow. And that's really changing. That's changing with like almost every team besides like maybe 2. And it's really nice to see, to be honest. I like it. I like fast-paced speed. I think it's better for the game.
Well, there you go. You know, I think Shuttle has a good point there in that the other teams have kind of started to play more like them in that it is just a more gunner-focused meta, right? You got to be able to win those gunfights in a way that you didn't necessarily need to back in stage 1. And so that is a big adjustment for Astralis to have to make. And so far, it's been a little bit rocky.
Yeah, I think most teams kind of agree that right now the meta asks for 5 high-skilled gunners who, you know, certainly have roles to play, but they can all win fights when needed. They can all step up and take those fights. And you can debate how many players on Astralis are good gunners. I think you would definitely argue that all 5 of these players have the skill to do that, but this stage they haven't. Again, 3 of the players on this team just have not been winning their fights. They've really been struggling in some of those engagements, and when you've only got 2 players that have been showing up so far this stage, it's really, really difficult to be able to win games against teams like, I think, Parabellum, who have a good number of players on their team that will be consistently taking those fights and feeling confident in them.
It was really weird seeing that game against Beast Coast specifically because they're not supposed to go 8-6 against a team that is having their own variety of struggles. So I went back and I watched that game over again, and I was trying to figure out what precisely for Astralis wasn't clicking. It feels like they have really heavy reliance on winning those gunfights, even if it means putting themselves into positions where it probably would be ill-advised for anybody else. But they're putting themselves in those spots and then still not winning those fights. There was a point in that game against Beast Coast, round 5, 3 players still have 0 kills, 5 deaths, have not been able to win any of the engagements that they were in. That was the single biggest sign that something about Astralis' overall playstyle and wanting to take those fights can't work if your guys aren't shooting back.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we identified on Parabellum with Astralis in stage 1 was that they're a team that kind of throws out the formula. Most teams have like a set plan, like this is exactly how you're supposed to play around. And I think Astralis kind of was just like, yeah, we can just win the gunfights. And I think that was like a big thing for them. I think the Finca LMG was a huge thing. Yeah. I definitely think it helped them take disadvantaged gunfights, jumping in windows, you just pre-fire someone. Where I think now you have to take a lot more like reserved gunfights or smart gunfights. You can't just throw 5 people into a doorway and expect it to work.
Yeah, and I mean, I think consistency is also the other big thing, right? And that plays into what you were talking about, right? You can't expect as high a level of consistency now that the LMGs are out, now that you can't pre-fire like that. So you have to be maybe a little bit pickier about where you decide to take their fights, and Astralis seems like they're kind of learning that.
Yeah, I do want to give credit where credit is due, though. I think they dug very, very deep and managed to make sure that that wasn't like the most disastrous thing in the world in that game against Beast Coast. And they also got that win for TSM still. Yeah, so they still came out of last week with 2 good results. They got 5 points out of it, and it was a good week overall. And I do think that showcases that because they've been in these high stress situations before, that they do have the ability to activate that 6th gear and get themselves out of a tough spot if they need it.
That's right. And they're going to need it against the team on the other side of the arena. It's going to be Parabellum, who have looked, I would say, very, very good this stage. They obviously made some changes, which we'll get into, because we've got one of the people who was part of those changes on the desk with us. But they've looked solid. They've looked a bit shaky at times. That's always going to happen. You're incorporating new players. But overall, they've looked strong.
I think that so far, I mean, Parabellum, they've been that team that they started off week 1 really, really dominant. They surprised a lot of people, but last week was maybe a bit of a reality check. You know, you're not going to get these games constantly where people don't know what you're going to do. You played Border back-to-back, and sure, you caught people off guard, a couple of times, but when SSG had time to prepare, they were able to see through you on that map, and they really did take advantage of that.
I'm really curious about your take on this whole thing. As somebody who was just on the team, the biggest difference from what you guys played like stage 2 into stage 3, even from an outside perspective, what are you noticing right now?
Well, I think the big thing that the new Parabellum roster is going to have to do is someone's going to have to step up and make a decision. Okay, like this is how we're going to attack. This is how we're going to defend. We need to get aggro. We need to get passive. And someone needs to step up. I think from what I've talked to the team, it's been Blaz. Blaz has stepped up and been like a lot more vocal on the team.
Yeah.
So I think for them, the big thing is just making sure everyone's on the same page, working together. And I think like if they can figure out how to do that, then they'll be fine for the rest of the season.
Yeah, on that note too, when I was talking to Asian before the stage began, he said he felt a lot of pressure in having to take on that role and having some big shoes to fill, right? As far as being a little bit more of an IGL, and sure, we're in a meta where maybe having a static IGL isn't as much of a thing as it was in the past, but he felt that responsibility, and that's an extra layer of difficulty for a new player coming into this. He's had a pretty good performance, but that's still a lot to carry through an entire stage,
Certainly, and I think it's like rookies this stage have actually surprised across the board with how much they've been able to step up. I think we've seen that on TSM with Gasher. I think we've seen that on Mirage as well coming through with Mohesi. So if we can see a little bit more of that from Parabellum, or if we see Blast stepping up and being able to call a little bit more, I definitely think that'll be a huge help for him.
Yeah, I think they got found out on Border because they didn't play nearly as together as they could, or not nearly as together as Space Station were playing, because as soon as a Parabellum player got a kill, there's an immediate SSG trade. As soon as SSG got a kill, there wasn't a Parabellum trade trade back if that's how a round started. And then they tried out a different map. They went to Cafe, which up until, well, I mean, still even to right now, they have not been able to win on so far this year. And it feels like their style of play isn't as effective. Their trade game isn't like exactly where it needs to be. And it's even harder on a big map like Cafe with more angles and windows and more space to watch. So I feel like they kind of got caught out in a really bad moment there.
Oh, well, here we go. There's the map graphic that you were going to talk about, Jess.
Yeah, I think that things have gotten a little bit rocky for Parabellum when it comes to the map pool after last week. First of all, they've got 3 permabans, right? We've got Clubhouse, we've got Bank, and we've got Theme Park. If we assume that they don't want to play any of those maps again, that's 3 auto bans that Parabellum have to take out of the pool. What else do they have? Well, we've seen them play Cafe, and that one they seem to struggle a little bit against Dark Zero. It's also the one map that Astralis probably looked best on. They won it in Playday 3. So if you assume, okay, well, they probably also want to ban out Cafe, then you're taking a look at the other map that they've played so far. Border's been 3 plays, and despite it looking good week 1, SSG really seemed to figure them out there. So you take those 5 maps into account, and unfortunately, in a 9-map map pool, you can't ban 5 maps. So Parabellum kind of have to figure out how they're going to get around that. I think there's a couple different ways. A, maybe you've got a different strat on Border. B, maybe you think Astralis can ban out one of those for you. Obviously, Astralis do not love playing some of those permabans like Clubhouse, but it's kind of a difficult spot to get yourself out of if you're PB.
Yeah, I mean, just like from playing on PB, I know their formula is definitely let's be comfortable on our maps. So they really want to get to their maps that they're comfortable on, work on the 5 that they want to play for this season, get comfortable, and then expand. So I think right now it's just getting comfortable on the 5 maps and then expand to a 6th. Because I think it's hard, especially in the NL, when you have 3 bans, to play different maps and be just as good as your greatest maps, right?
Yeah, true. And we've seen map struggles be like a theme for a lot of teams in the league. Dark Zero jumps to mind as a team that's had to really focus on improving in that category. But let's keep the map conversation going with our map bans. We do have those in now. We do know where we're going to go. We know it's not going to be Skyscraper Chalet.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we keep seeing the PB permaban formula follow all the way through here, just like based specifically on what they've opted to ban so far in this stage. Still holding true with the Bank one. The Skyscraper one is a little bit 50-50, but you could have started out with anything, I feel like, if you're PB. And then, yep, the Clubhouse one is still true to form. So the fact that Chalet is still up all the way this late is a little curious, because that's one that Astralis themselves basically, they've only played it one time this year. I'd be curious if we go there, but we're still not sure yet.
2 of those problem maps I was talking about, Border Cafe, Astralis will give PB a bit of a favor and ban those out for them. Now, obviously, they are kind of comfort maps for Parabellum. It should be their 3rd permaban coming through of Theme Park next, and that indeed is what it is. So I think if nothing else, Astralis have gotten themselves a lot of control through this map ban phase by banning out those maps that Parabellum have played before, but that also means they're not going to have that history to go back and watch on and maybe try to counter-strat Parabellum a little bit.
And it's Villa.
Dude, I was talking about it. I was like, you were thinking, oh, hey, we might end up going to Bank. I'm like, but both teams kind of like Villa. What if they just push it that way? And look at what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I think Villa is a map that both teams are very comfortable on. I think both teams definitely knew it was going to Villa this week, Villa or Oregon. So I think all these teams are prepared. PB knows how Astralis plays on Villa, and vice versa.
This is the map that Forrest just got an MVP on last week, though, isn't it?
It's true, but is Forrest going to drop 22 again?
Yeah, do you feel like you figured it out? You're not worried about Forrest being good on this map again?
Forrest didn't drop 22 kills when they played this map last stage against each other, and Parabellum won it 7-4. You might remember that, Penguin?
Yep. That was a good game. That was a great game, and I think Astralis has only expanded on their Villa from that game.
Yeah,
I'd hope so. It's interesting because both teams have a 75% win rate over the whole year on this one. Astralis have played it way more because they've got majors that they've played it at too, and sometimes that went their way, sometimes it didn't. But for Parabellum, 3-1 on the year for any of the maps they've played so far. That's I think the best record that they have on any map so far. So this could conceivably be considered their best battleground, and you're taking Astralis to it. This is going to be good.
Well, a lot to think about as we move into our predictions for map 1 of the week. Wonder who it's going to be, Parabellum or Astralis. We're going to get to the desk's opinions on that in a moment, but first we're going to send it over to Blue and Stokes, our casters for this one. What do you think? This one is a little bit of a tricky one to call.
It is a tricky one, and for me it got even trickier when we saw the map come up there as well, the fact that we're going back to Villa. Originally, I was probably leaning towards Astralis, but Astralis, obviously, as you guys were mentioning, a little bit reliant on Forest to get things done in that matchup, and their defenses were a little bit wonky, too, in the way that they were playing that one out. So I'm going to take a little risk here. I'm going to go with Parabellum. I think they're going to end up taking this one.
All right.
I'm going to have to contradict him, Doa. I'm going to have to go Astralis here. To the stars, and the reason being is that I don't think that Astralis are a stick in the mud. They know what is wrong with this team, and it's the fact that the lower half of the scoreboard just really isn't there right now. And there's a lot of weight that's having to be picked up between Forest and Iconic. I think they're going to fix that. I think we're going to have kind of a wake-up call here. We're getting to that time. We're about halfway through the stage, and Astralis really wants to go to another major. Lock me in for AST, and let's get through with this.
All right, the casting desk divided. We'll see who's right after the map finishes. We're going to take a moment to say goodbye to our casters. We'll get back to you guys in a second when things get started. Our analysts. You know what, Penguin, you're new on the desk for this week. I'll let you go first. Who's it going to be?
Okay, I was going to vote for Astralis, but the map's Villa. And I think PB will win on Villa. PB's beat Astralis on Villa before. And I think the systems like PB has in place, they're all comfortable on Villa. I don't think there's a player that's going to feel out of place or disconnected. So I think we're going to see PB's strongest map.
Biased analyst alert! We got paid for this.
We didn't bring him on for his objectivity.
We knew you were going to go for this. There was no way you were going to pick Astralis for this game, even regardless of the map.
I would have picked Astralis if it wasn't on Villa. I genuinely think PB's the best Villa team.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jacob, what do you think?
Well, yeah, no, I agree with him. Mostly because I keep on thinking that Astralis' weaknesses are probably still more of a conundrum for them to figure out. I do hope that behind the scenes they'd be able to really correct course quickly, but I think Parabellum can get a really good bounce back in this game against an Astralis team that was not firing on all cylinders against Beast Coast for those first couple of rounds. So if you compare Parabellum to Beast Coast, I think Parabellum's the better team. I think Parabellum takes the game.
All right, Jesse, your last analyst remaining. What's it going to be?
I think we're going to show a little northern solidarity on the desk. We've already got one Canadian going for the Canadian org. I'm going to back them up. I think that last time we saw Astralis on this map, it took 6 rounds for 3 players to accumulate a single kill amongst the 3 of them. If that happens again, Forrest is not going to be able to bail him out the same way that he was against Beast Coast. I got to say Parabellum for this matchup.
All sounds very logical, but let's ask a force that does not deal in logic. It deals in chance.
Twitter.
That's right. It's time for the coin. And Twitter. We'll get to that in a second. It's a good call. But for now, it's the coin. It's going to be heads, Astralis, tails, Parabellum. Flipped, and it's heads. Ooh, the coin. Saying Astralis. Interesting. Saying it agrees with Stokes that maybe there's going to be a bit of a bounce back here, a bit of a wake-up call from that Beast Coast match. We will see. The fan vote, though, says...
Curious about this one.
52% for Astralis. So for Parabellum, I'm sorry. So it's very close, actually, just a 2% lead for Parabellum. And I agree. It's tough to call because, of course, Astralis could win this if they do have that bounce-back moment, which they totally could. Ton of skill on that team. Parabellum, though, they've got the recent history. They've got the results. We'll see what it's going to be. It's going to be tough to call. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. We also have our community poll to think about before this first map. What is that going to be? Who can carry harder, Forrest or Blaz?
Wow.
I love Forrest as much as the next guy, but it feels like both teams rely on both of those guys more often than not to really push them forward. So I don't know, Twitter, what do you think?
He seems like Forrest can Hulk out sometimes, right? Where it's like he becomes the Incredible Forrest and just drops 22 on a map, you know?
Forrest.
You never know. You never know.
He turns from a forest into a jungle.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And then he's like, welcome to the jungle. Anyway, no, we don't have the rights for that song, so we're going to move past that. Quick break. And when we come back, the first map of the day begins here on week 3 of the Rainbow Six North American League. See you in just a few.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is just about time to start our first game of the day. Bound to be an interesting one, of course, given the kind of contrasting storylines that these two teams have. For Astralis, of course, having a bit of a rocky start to things on week number 1 and bouncing back last week. And of course, Parabellum, literally the opposite of that. Great week 1, bit of a questionable week 2 here. So they're going to be looking to flip their luck against Astralis. Meanwhile, though, Astralis is still looking to fix some of their own problems, whether it's the lack of performance from some of the lower-ended players on the team or problems on the strategy side of things on the defensive side. They're still going to choose, however, to go back to the very same map they just played at the end of last week with confidence here against PB. So Stokes, how's it going to look for you?
What a battleground to go back to. I love that you highlighted that in kind of your opening ensemble there, John. I really appreciate that because Fofos on XD or Forest, whatever you know him as, whatever you do know him as, just know this. He was eliminating people in the server last week on this map. And Iconic was still there doing his part. The big problem was for Astralis is that the lower half of the leaderboard was not there for them. It was really difficult to try and find some kills, specifically Shuttle getting shut down in a lot of different ways, 0-3 on his entry. And it's just been hard fought for Astralis in that category the entire year. Currently 25-25 on their entry as a team. So looking forward towards Villa, this could be pretty hard fought for them, especially given the circumstances of Parabellum, how much they like to go for some big plays, especially with how lethal they've been on their entry, 26-18 so far this stage.
Absolutely the case. They've been lights out with regards to that. Meanwhile, Astralis has been trying to recenter themselves, focus on some new things. There was an interesting tweet from Callout recently where he talked about needing to improve performance in the team in a few sort of interesting ways. He was talking about the team needing sort of daily meditation, exercise, and proper sleep hygiene as well. So Callout, once again, one of the more interesting coaches in the North American scene. Wanted to call that one out as he's definitely bringing a very unique approach compared to a lot of the previous coaches that have existed in the ecosystem and even some of the ones we have now.
Yeah, fantastic mention as well. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I meditated this morning because of that tweet. I sat right in the middle of the bed, the king-size bed that Faces so graciously offered us at our hotel, and I just ohmed right there. That's what I did. It worked out pretty well. I'll be honest. I'm feeling pretty chipper this morning, feeling pretty spry. So there might be some, magic inside of those words. We'll have to see. But walking into this matchup, how are you personally feeling about this? Do you feel like Astralis can pull themselves back across the line? When we were talking about this previously for our predictions, you were feeling as though Parabellum takes this.
Yeah, I feel like Parabellum's going to take this because I feel like it's been too short of an amount of time to make the adjustments necessary, especially when you consider that for Astralis, the adjustments that would have been needed, and again, to be perfectly clear, Astralis did eventually win their match, but winning it with a heavy reliance on some of their star players in order to get things done. I don't think they would have necessarily been able to improve that. The areas we were seeing them struggle, specifically again to call out the defensive area, were in part because some of their lower-ended players were not able to perform, so that was kind of leaving the two star players a bit on an island, needing to perform crazy on their extended game, and if they didn't, well, unfortunately, the rest of the team didn't stand much of a chance, so we're going to have to see if they were able to make improvements on that coming into today's matchup. It's a long checklist for me, so I'm just not feeling like they were able to get things done, given it was only like 5 days or so between the last match day and now. Meanwhile, for PB, obviously they've come into this one with quite a bit of confidence before, and I feel like they are going to hit the ground running personally.
I understand where you're coming from, especially when you look at Astralis and kind of how they've been performing this stage. You look at Iconic. I mean, he's persevered through this troublesome start, but he's 44-36 overall for his KD, so he's got a +8. He's positive on that. He's negative on his entry, though, -4. That's not something we really see out of Iconic, especially this year as a whole. He's got a KPR of a .88, though. The big player here, as we all know, has got to be Forest. If you guys didn't know, he's 13-4 on entry, +9. He's leading the league. And not only that, John, he has the most kills in the league right now as well at 48. And this might be a big ban coming out from Parabellum. This is what we saw last week get utilized so very much by the offense of Astralis. Ace, constantly a big pickup, especially for Forest, even though he did highlight that blitz pick a lot on offense. So we'll have to see how this one ends up shaking down. Habana also going to go off the board as well. If you guys didn't notice, it's actually both of the ranged hard breachers gone. So everyone's going to have to approach the walls and hopefully not get exploded because of it.
Thankfully, Hard Breach isn't going to be quintessential for quite a few of these, so you still be able to work things in a worst-case scenario, but you're definitely going to be wanting to have it. Obviously, we see both teams wanting to make that process a little bit more difficult regardless. Defensive bans are not going to be too surprising. Valkyrie, again, still pretty much top of the pecking order for those defensive bans, considering the kind of effectiveness she has on a universal standpoint, and the very same thing could be said for Mir. You guys probably saw it in the chat. In case you didn't, we have an audio issue with one of the players, so we're just going to hop out of game real quick. We do not have to rehost, I believe, so, fingers crossed on that. but I'm pretty sure we don't actually have to full rehost it, so I think we just have to have that player restart their PC or something and have them rejoin, and then we should be good to continue on with the first round. So hopefully just a minute or two here, folks, and then we'll be ready to start the game.
I just want to go back and double check for last week's game as well for Astralis versus Beast Coast, where they ended up coming out 8-6. That was a big game for Forest, but I wanted to specifically check the ban that they went for there because I felt as though it wasn't Hibana last week, and I was right. It was actually Yana. That's when they ended up going for that, and then we had the Nook ban on the other end of the coin, but we saw a lot get done with a bunch of different categories from Beast Coast, specifically a lot of Lion play that got in the way of Astralis, but this time instead they doubled down on the ranged hard breach. Now I think this is a very, very interesting ban and something that we're more than likely going to be talking about on the analyst desk at nauseum later on, because it limits what you can do on a map like Villa. There is a lot of areas where you would much rather play from a window. You know, perfect example on Villa, 9D going for gun vault single. You're really going to want to repel in that window and try and chuck something in there, or use X-Kairos pellets from Hibana in order to extend out and get that wall and make a new line of sight. Now, instead, you actually have to physically get in the building, which is a whole problem in and of its own, especially for that area, right? Because there's no access to 90 unless you want to Gara hook up the hatch. Otherwise, you got to come down both hallways or swing in through that window. So it just complicates a lot of things that were pretty easy before these bans were implemented. So be on the lookout for how these offensive lineups try and adjust to make that work.
All right, well, looks like we got everybody back into the server now, folks. I think we're just waiting for the ready up, and I believe we have gotten past that point now. So
did I delay long enough? Did I do it?
You filled in your job.
Yes, Dad. Thank you. Thank you.
So we should be getting into the first round, guys, in just a second. Your patience, of course, as always, is appreciated. I know for you, some of you guys are waking up bright and early. It's gamer terms, at least. It's only 11:15 a.m.
Oh, man.
For me, that's early.
My blackout shades. They're not blacked out enough. The sun's peeking through. It's waking me up. But you know, it is going to be a pretty bright day. It's going to be a pretty red day as well, as it's a lot of red here in this lobby. Astralis versus Parabellum here in beautiful, sunny Italy. Let's get right into this. Haven't had a Villa since, well, last week, have we? So
the last game we casted, I'm pretty sure. So.
Oh, man. Got to hit you with a curveball every once in a while, John.
All right, well, let's see if there's going to be any curveballs in the setup from PB. Not looking too likely just based on the operator selections here. We've got a nice amount of delay, along with that extra roam utility, of course, the usual extension going over here towards the main stairs. No deployable shield being set up in that area that I can tell they're going to put their only other deployable shield up on top of the map instead to create a nice little play space, actually, against Astralis, especially if they're going to continue to push in the direction they usually tried to play this set in their attacks from before, which was from that statuary side. So at the moment, that deployable shield setup is pretty smart if they're able to lure Astralis into that trap towards the later point in the round. And again, we can see it. Astralis coming in as we expected from the statuary side of the map here. So good read so far in the situation for PB in their setup.
Great mindset for utility, though, from Astralis. Bringing a lot of what is necessary to break up something like this. They've even got some info game to play around with those logic bombs. If these are used appropriately, they can not only force someone back, but potentially get a big kill here. They're going to know Doc is inside of Trophy. He's got two over on the Master side and one trying to work their way around the building here. A little swing through with somebody watching his board. Doc will get by the skin of his teeth. Somehow the shots don't land, but Astralis now has the side of the building.
Quick clear from Astralis here, and that means, once again, no contest from PB to be able to put down these players early on. It's a good start indeed from our attackers, and now comes the tough part of the round to transition this through 90, through some of the other tough areas of the map and get themselves into the actual site. The good news is they have plenty of time to do this. This initial clear was done with lightning speed. Only about a minute of the 3 minutes total used to be able to get access to this hallway.
Well, DP fire with a Candela out, but it won't be acted upon. Just seeing if there was anybody that potentially wanted to go for a swing off of the plains door. J9O will now assume the position in 90, getting tagged up or rather danced upon. Some bullets through the drone hole. Might try and move up here and get this wall open. Just looking through all of the breach options we have right now, we actually don't have any for Astralis. I do believe that they might have overlooked this and didn't look into their secondary hard breach. Definitely kind of a weird instance for them, as it's going to be a stun off, and they'll at least get Parabellum to fall back farther. But the big issue is that they've got Goyo in play, and with all of those fire canisters around, it's going to be super easy for them to continue this delay. Parabellum's just going to keep lurking for this pick, but it's actually going to be Forest that makes the move towards main stairs.
Doc potentially going to be next
Blaz
up
is
to bat.
down
Yeah,
too.
Blaz getting downed. Also here, Kool-Aid spotted now behind the bar. Won't be able to play out from his position too aggressively anymore. Blaz definitely not redeemable, unfortunately, due to the late positions that BB have now had to fall back into and try to play out throughout the rest of this round here. Final Candela is going to be dumped in as the play is being made, but Kool-Aid making his own play. Bit too overzealous, though, as he goes directly into the waiting arms of Iconic, who shuts him down. Doc has him cut off and nearly grabs the second one, but he gets lured in by the planter. And with that, Astralis will be able to shut down the rest of the round and take a convincing first point here.
The playmaking ability of Fofos on XD. Astralis hits an obstacle at the top of red. They move down towards 90. J9O is going to hold that and make sure that nobody can rotate around bookshelf or try and swing out from bar. And they're going to just reach kind of a stagnant moment there. But what you see is this little blue silhouette skip across the first floor and make its way all the way over to main stairs. That just happens to be Forrest taking out Asian. And that's going to be the first domino that knocks down Parabellum. Especially after we see, I do believe, Doc go for the big swing with the Goyo and end up getting downed as well. And that right there is all hands on deck for Astralis. They see blood in the water and they're immediately going to hop upon Parabellum, take control of that site, and end up just taking them out at the end of the day. Didn't even need the plant to go off, just got the bodies instead. Astralis up one round here. Moving into the second, Parabellum don't want to go back to AVG. You're going to throw things to the north and go for trophy and statuary.
Yeah, for the most part, a masterclass takedown there from Astralis. PB.
Especially with no hard breach, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't open a single wall there, by the way. Quite interesting stuff.
PB tried to throw out aggression in quite a few different departments, whether it was the extension over here, what was the previous round, of course.
They don't want hard breach, John.
No, they don't.
DP Fire has access to it on Ying. They're just not going to play hard breach. Instead, they're going to play literally all smokes. This right here is just like faux walls. That's how you can kind of look at it. I mean, you might have some background in that. 6 smoke grenades, John. What do you think of that?
This is going to be an interesting one from Astralis. Let's wait and see how exactly they try to get themselves into the site with this one. And then this is baked behind the Candelas too, which could be kind of like rolled in through those smokes. Is a bit of surprise. You know, obviously you're going to have the audio cue, but you're still not going to have an exact idea of where they're being tossed from. And those blinds will still end up affecting you just as prominently. So Astralis going for a shock and all tactic more than likely towards the end of the round. They're going to need to set themselves up for it first. Last round they didn't have too much of a problem doing that. PB pulled back their extension game very early on, right around this same marker at about 2 minutes on the clock here. And then unfortunately just didn't really have enough map control to play out from the inside of the site at this point. DP Fire, no respect as he goes for the entry on bar, shuts down Blaz, and Shuttle will do the same exact thing over on the other side of AVG by taking out Asian.
That was such a quick wrap on the building. They've already got all the window repels done. This is a completely different Astralis, and to be honest, this is what I was hoping to see today. This is why I picked them in our predictions, because I was banking on the fact that they could have a big bounce back, and at least through these first 2 rounds, it's looking solid. They got 2 nice picks. Yes, Iconic went down, but he's got an Asian and Blaz. These are 2 big players, 2 of the biggest players in the last handful of weeks for Parabellum. Practically the basis of this team's success. Now dead in the water. Remaining members of Parabellum now have to try and pull them back through this. J9O lurking here in benches. Can't find too much. Not trying to push himself too far forward without information, especially with how close Kool-Aid in particular is playing towards this trophy door.
PB don't want to give anything away now. Unfortunately, now they've fallen behind, even with the one trade they got against Iconic. Oh, what a shot from Kool-Aid, though. Pretty sure it's a one-tap to take down the next member of Astralis. Shuttle also falls after the fact here. Much stronger interior sight hold this time from PB. It's working out swimmingly here, just not giving away any of the intel and only peeking into these small little pixel angles that Astralis, unfortunately in this round, have just not been able to contend against. DP Fire waiting for an opportunity to trade out. Knows he's got a player to his left over here inside of Statuary, but has nothing to really force that player out. Could obviously use the Candelas, but they want to really try and preserve that for the execute, and they'll never really get the chance. Unfortunately, it's all down to DP Fire now. Kool-Aid has found the other pickup against the last other remaining member of Astralis. So DP Fire, what can he do here in the 1v3? Trying to bait out the shots. The timing, unfortunately, just is not there. And the aim not able to catch the small peaks we're getting from the inside of Trophy itself. Eska gets the credit for the final kill. And it's a quick response from PB to tie us up now at 1-1.
Very, very nice try from Astralis, but Parabellum lethal dose right off the spawn side, as they're actually, or right off the bomb side rather, as they're both playing towards the far end doors to try and counteract Astralis pushing in through benches and Boar. I love the play. You know, don't play too far back. You're trying to fend them off, especially when you're in a 4 versus 3 like that. You're not nearly as low on man count, and really all you need is a slick shot like what we saw out of Kool-Aid, and he's got the mechanical ability to do stuff like that. And not only that, but he's smoked past that, so he gets that kill, and then he can immediately shut down anyone trying to push into him. Just a quick smoke grenade right into Boar, and makes it very hard for Astralis to try and recover that frag. Very well done from Parabellum to make a grand stand when it mattered most.
Going to see a few repicks coming in for Astralis for the second attempt to go in the trophy, or rather into AVG. Of course, already finding that success previously on the first round. We're going to see a little bit of a stylistic change up here. They want a little bit more soft breach to be added to the equation. Further, they're not feeling the Candelas were that effective either, so they're going to switch that back over to the Doke that they originally had back in round 1. Obviously, Forest 2 will have gone over and bring those destructive drones into play to deal with some of the insight utility a little bit more proficiently. But again, just like the past 2 rounds, like you mentioned, no hard breach being brought to the table here. They don't feel they need it to access this site.
I feel like I just keep getting baited as well, because they keep bringing ops that have it as a secondary utility, and I'm just sitting here patiently waiting in the lobby, seeing if they're going to actually end up bringing the hard breach out for me to see. But no, Astralis feels confident in this, and I mean, honestly, why not? Especially with so much soft breach, as well as like the destruction capabilities of what Forest is bringing to the table. You know, those Rotero drones can get rid of a lot of the defensive standpoints of Parabellum and make it really difficult for them to try and play around some of these far reaches of the site. So Astralis can definitely exploit this to the point where they can do what we saw them do last time in AVG and more than likely bowl over the defensive opposition. Jane, I know I actually do believe is in downstairs. Not only that, though, he actually has the case right now, so a little worrisome depending on how you want to look at it, but Jane, I know more than likely got it. We'll have to see. Move his way in towards lobby. Does have Asian right above him. He's going to go for a swing. It's a little scary. Going to have some stuns out, and it's going to force Asian back, who will soon be drone, but he's just trying to play around this main stairs and delay as much time as humanly possible.
Indeed, wasting timeout is the key to success here. Another important note when we talk about Astralis' hard breach game too is because of the way the PB is setting it up, leaving that one half on the study soft and a few other areas of the map being left in a similar position. They don't necessarily need it. Like we were talking about before, they can still be able to access the site. More importantly, access good sight lines without necessarily needing to open up any additional walls here. Nice nade from down below, deals with that canister that was also positioned there in the previous rounds. It's just Astralis learning from the previous rounds and playing things out a little bit more quickly this time, about 20 seconds ahead of the time they blew that up in the first round here. So still need to see the entry come through, though. That's where we haven't seen the confidence work as well as it did back in round number 1 for us. Finally ready to move in, the timing is perfect. Catches Eska with his back turn, trying to go for a check towards Bar. Free kill, but the problem is he was the only one to move in. He had 0 support, so was not able to sustain that position. Had to back into study once again. We've kind of reset it as a result of that, and obviously Asian has Hawkeyes on the study door now, watching out for the re-entry from Forest.
Yeah, Forest with the golden eye, sneaks in, takes down a single target in the likes of Eska. Scampers back off into study, playing his life now. Do they know someone's inside of Skull? They don't. Blaz! He can't get the second, but Doc's there to help him. Astralis now down to 2 bodies, and they haven't been able to push forward to Forest. He'll sneak all the way through plane towards the top of red. Doc wasn't ready for that. It's a 2 versus 2. But who has the case? It's going to be iconic. They're moving towards the bar door now. 20 seconds remain. Kool-Aid has no smokes, but he's got an angle off the bar. Soft paneling here. Can abuse this. Try and prevent them before they even get into the site. No hard eyes, though. Ikonic's going to move in towards the back. I don't even think that they know that he's here. He's going to pre-fire. He can't find the person over by the bar. Kool-Aid will at least get one, but it's all up to him now to try and stop this plant. Ikonic's halfway through it. Kool-Aid dashes. It's going to be super close, ladies and gentlemen. Kool-Aid doesn't know where he is. Iconic hides behind the shield, and he gets the frag. Astralis up 2-1.
Iconic with a massive clutch there after the plant. Had to take the huge risk, the 50-50 gamble on the plant as to whether his opponent would be able to catch him in time or not. And critical mistake for the last player alive on PB. Thinks they went for the gun vault door plant instead of the plant behind the map table. And that critical blunder gives Iconic, as you can see on the replay, that split-second decision-making capability that he needs to shut down the round in his team's favor.
That right there shows you exactly why Forest and Iconic are such important players to this same team. Have you ever seen a Flores be as aggressive as that? That man walked through planes while there's still people in the site, John.
I don't think we actually saw Terror
They could just kill him if they were holding the door, but he just walks all the way to the top of red. The timing there is impeccable. Like, I cannot fathom that this is what we get out of Fofo-san over and over again. And the thing is that he just does it over and over again. So it's not like a mistake. It's not a fluke. It's just so incredible to witness something like that. I mean, really putting the team on his back when they needed him most to make a play there.
All right, well, let's see if they can potentially bring that kind of energy to the fold. Once again, PB looking to rebound, of course. Still going to have the other upstairs site locked away because they won that back on round 2, so they're making a return to the first floor this time. Not feeling the third try on AVG with the way that the first 2 attempts have panned out, so it's into the kitchen instead here. Ooh. Bit of a change up to the operator lineup is going to come with that. Really, again, we're going to see the Maestro brought in just to have those evil eyes for the extra intel. Agent wants his extra roaming capability boosted a little bit more, so he is going to go over and bring those goo mines into the fold. Aside from that, though, pretty reasonable setup that you would expect here, with really Blaz being another outlier there on the Mozzie.
John, you like country music?
Not really, but...
Oh, yeah, because this setup's really looking like wide open spaces, I tell you. They got a lot of panels missing down low, but it's on purpose. They want to try and play aggressively so that Astralis can't get to these walls and blow them up in places like Laundry. I think there's a couple missing upstairs as well. So we'll see how Parabellum wants to try and work around that, or if Astralis can just straight up circumnavigate it. They brought Hard Breach this time. They've already lost a handful of drones. They have the EMPs on Forest to try and assist as well, but I don't necessarily know where they're going to be able to use it. They've actually found a home for it. It's going to be right here inside a vault. Asian's ready for it. He hasn't found his first kill yet, but oh my god, Shuttle sure did. What a setup. I didn't even see that coming through, even though we saw him move down that tunnel. They were ready for that hatch drop.
That's the good news, though. Getting a little bit adventurous there. Decides to peek out over towards the Astro stairway. Manages to catch Iconic, trying to move his way in through Mudroom. Nicely played out there. At least equalizes out the player count, but certainly going to be missing the potential roam pressure that would have come in from Asian if he was able to sustain himself for just a little bit longer there. By the way, though, half the round has now been wasted away. Astralis continuing to clear things out, specifically here towards the living room area. Not fully confirmed that this has been cleared out as of yet. They want to take their time with this, make sure that they analyze all options before trying to crunch in, especially considering that, again, the upstairs positions have been left untouched so far here as well. That is going to change over the next few seconds, though. Blaz, so easy as he just sprays his way around the corner to pick up kill number 2 for his squad. Doc gets the third by knocking out Shuttle. Things not looking so promising here for Astralis on this round. They're going to try to make up the difference, though, on the upstairs hold, and just not looking like it's going to end up happening. I'm not sure how Doc ended up going down to Kool-Aid's Nitro, but it happened. And then Forrest is now left alone in the 1v3. As you can see, probably no case control either. He's going to have to cross the hall to get that, but he won't even be given the chance. Blaz takes him down. PB respond again to tie us up at 2-2.
That skull position is so annoying. I don't know if you've noticed that Blaz has been there like 2 out of 3 times in these rounds, but that little area where you can sneak right into that corner at the top of red, always a nice area to try and maintain, especially because the angles are pretty easy for you to try and make sure that you don't get seen by a drone or something like that. So just a very solid position play from Parabellum. And again, it was an aggressive look from them, and it pays off. They get a lot of big kills, even though Astralis get that lead-off pick with a nice hatch drop there coming out of Asian. But still, Parabellum are able to bounce back, especially since they had kind of that lurking I almost said Monsang. Oh my gosh, what's our all-the-willing man on defense? I can't remember his name right now. It's escaping me. Maestro. Yeah, I was having a brain fart there for a second. Yeah, but since Maestro was lurking around instead of just sticking on site, they're able to get a big play in that sense and shut down Iconic, because if he is allowed to get on site as Nook, you now have a major issue. Astralis can completely flip the script. They don't need top control anymore. They don't even need library controller or living room or anything. They just need to get to site and get that plant down. So very, very well done for Parabellum to make sure that that line did not happen.
Interesting switch up for Iconic specifically. He's ended up going over towards the IQ, trying to figure out some of the positions of this utility. Might become very useful if he can survive towards the late round. We end up in a tense plant situation as well, when you consider that Eska's, of course, brought the Echo, and those yokai drones will be very pesky. It is definitely not going to be the first thing that Astralis look for if they end up having to enter with only like 20 seconds left yet again. So let's hope Iconic's utility is going to come into play there, as he has had to switch off of the comfort pick on the Twitch to be able to go towards this. Away from that, though, pretty usual lineup of suspects here. Force is just taken over the Nook that I believe Iconic was using on the previous round. Unfortunately, Iconic could not accomplish a whole lot with it. They got caught right here, actually. It's going to try to change things up, though, as they were able to clear things out in kitchen this time. No resistance from PB there, but Kool-Aid is going to be able to take down DP fire from up on top, believe it or not. I'd be curious to see this angle, how it worked out, but regardless, finds that first kill. And there we go. We can see it now as the hop-in from Pantry is where he catches him.
Yeah, it's not even a hop-in. That's a rappel there for the Pantry area. So you actually have to get up on that. I don't know if he was trying to swing in or what have you, but either way, that's a dead DP fire, and that's logic bombs on the floor that'll be wasted for round 5. Astralis going to be kicking themselves about allowing that one to slip through the cracks.
That's their. That's gonna be the Dokkaebi gone too. So they just lost both their phone calls. They hadn't used the other one yet.
You mean the logic bombs I was just talking about?
Yeah. Oh, it's just, I just call them you call them the full name. That's
our job.
It takes up too much memory for me.
Yeah. Says the person that just forgot.
It's
Maestro's
a phone
name.
call, okay? Like.
Oh my goodness gracious!
You just hit the ignore button and it goes away.
That's
like,
yeah, but you have to hit it like 6 times. All right. My do not disturb does not work for Dokkaebi.
Why does it work the 6th time? That's the real question.
That is the real question. I don't really know. You're going to probably have to ask Astralis the same thing, because they're probably wondering why this isn't working for the 6th time either. But let's see. It's going to be a slow opener past that DP fire pick. They've gotten in down low, some frag grenades out, and I mean, this is basically ground to a halt, -4 down low. I'm trying to see if we have anything else going on. Not really. J9O is going to be able to get a pick up. They had a supporting unit downstairs, but Shuttle's now dead to the world as well, since Blaz will just double back over and take him out. Iconic, one of the remaining souls alive on Astralis, looking to see if he can get anything back in blood. They have a flank coming through on Study side, but I don't know if they have a drone in play for that at the current moment. 35 seconds remain for Astralis to try and make a play here, but Parabellum are swarming around them.
Astralis kind of losing the plot for this round, unfortunately.
Nice.
Yeah, are able to eventually catch Blaz as they did route his rotation back through main stairs, was able to expect his position on the inside.
Oh, this is an angle.
AVG, indeed it is, and it's going to be, oh wow, big risk being taken here. The plant, and it nearly leads to a team kill. Oh man, no. Astralis just could not get anything to work in this round, unfortunately, except for the trade on a Blaz, and even then, Blaz is not losing any sleep over that. You see it let at least 2 for 1 in that round. Beautifully played here on the defense by Parabellum. Very annoying to play against, and you can tell Astralis was really struggling with it all that round.
They're doing a very good job of keeping their roamers active, especially when they're in a man-up situation. They're constantly keeping Astralis guessing, and that's something, especially on a map like Villa where there's just so much going on, it's super annoying to deal with, because you're trying to deal with, you know, clearing. You're trying to deal with getting hard breach done and supporting angles and making sure that your breacher doesn't get swung on and die and all these other things, and then you also have 2 people that are just roaming around the map randomly. It's just, it's an amalgamation of crap, man. Let me tell you, it's not very fun. So you got to feel for Astralis. But the good news is they've at least gotten 2 rounds, and they have a chance to keep this at a dead heat here in round 6.
See if they get the job done. This is the side where we would have expected Astralis to try and pick up a lot of rounds, just considering the results from their previous match day. So we're paying very close attention when, of course, we get to the 7th round to see if Astralis has fixed some of the problems on their defense. And again, that problem, in part, relied on the over-reliance of some of the top-ended players from Astralis being able to perform. Obviously, on the attacking side, you can kind of keep the team together, and those players can pick up the slack where, like, maybe an entry player will fail to find a kill. On defense, it's a little bit harder, is obviously, especially at the beginning of the round, you got to spread those players out and still be able to maintain decent map control until you get down to around 130 or lower, depending on where the team's comfortability is for that sort of situation.
Yes, indeed. Well, Parabellum going to be going back to similar straights. We're going to bring back in Asian with the Azami here, be able to set up all of her kunai, give them some extra cover, and then you have the Goyo canisters as well working their way in. And honestly, I'm really enjoying this version of Goyo, especially with the 1.5. He was always a pretty fun character to play, but obviously the shields were just a little overdone. I like the canister that we have now, especially because you can kind of set it and forget it, let some of your anchors utilize that and try and work with some more delay. And speaking of those, there's a perfect showcase of how those work. Those will stick around for about 20 seconds, and it does quite a bit of damage if you want to try and work your way through it. And speaking of working your way through, J9O, he's already gotten control of at least the initial stairwell. J9O will work his way in towards Trophy, but it's actually going to be Forrest to strike first, really upping that entry stat for AST.
This guy's been one of the shining stars on Astralis that have been bringing that stat to the forefront of the team, so still good to see him remaining strong in that respect. How does Astralis look to move forward from here, though? They have been able to deal with this hold twice now. So just kind of repeating that progress and making sure they lock this one in for a 3rd time so they can at least guarantee the tie now as we get past halftime. Things are going to slow down quite a bit, though, after that first entry. They're waiting to see what the response would have been from PB. It's quite tame, except for that peek from Eska right there. No one trying to get crazy and jump into the faces of Astralis here, so I think in a second or two, they will call things all clear. Especially with that kill, they'll call things all clear. Ready to move on to the site. Yeah, PB just overplaying the hand here, unfortunately. No success in their own extended game, and now whatever's left of the anchor play on the site itself is more than likely going to be too weak to follow through with the rest of the round. Doc with a nice pick. He leaves himself exposed, though, I believe, to play from the top of red stairs, and that's how he'll get downed. Eska now alone with less than 20 HP to play with as well. This is going to be tough.
Astralis with some insanely controlled pacing here for the last round of their offensive half. They're going to tie it up 3-3. The patience game paying off for them. They get that initial pick, and they wait out Parabellum. They know that eventually they're going to be going for those big swings. I mean, we even saw it as Parabellum continued to lose bodies. They took that challenge there inside a study to take down Forest, and they immediately get killed from the top of red. Astralis has been prepared for that aggressive playstyle of Parabellum. It just all came together really in that last round. And, well, now we're going to be switching gears. Astralis is going to be on defense for the very first time, and all in all, I'd say a pretty respective side for, or pretty respectable side for both respective sides of this one. PB with some pretty solid circumstances. I really like their kitchen defense, especially that they had going on there. More of an aggressive look that really caught Astralis off guard, and you can even say that about their top hold that they had in Trophy and Statuary, where they were playing more aggressively to the south side of the room and took out Astralis near benches and boars. So either way you slice it, you could really say one of these teams is ahead. I'd just like to say the word dead heat.
Yep, definitely need to take another look, unfortunately, at the AVG defense, as they just could not lock that one in despite 3 separate attempts at it. Those are all 3 of the rounds that we ended up giving to Astralis at the end of the day as well. Now it's time to see how Astralis, of course, looks to hold on to this one. Some interesting choices being made on the operator line. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward, actually. But the cap can is going to be one that we'll pay very close attention to there for Forrest, as he's looking to catch the players on Parabellum in a moment of indecision as they try to rush their way through a doorway, more than likely with limited time. That's where that fatal mistake is often made, especially considering for those who haven't been watching Siege in the last year or two, there was a pretty big change made to cap can in that you can now stack the EDDs, which means you can outright kill someone from a single doorway, which was impossible previously.
And he's got 5 of those things now as well, given that. So if you do end up stacking them, they can actually outright down somebody now instead of being what they once were. Force is going to go for an aggressive peek over here inside of Art Studio, but he's only going to find bullets. Now he's got to try and work his way back, but fortunately enough for him, the timing works out. This guy, so lucky sometimes, let me tell you. Logic Bomb out, and Force is going to get tagged up again, but it's actually going to be Shuttle that is the next one to receive some damage, but nobody dead just yet.
Still, they're pretty weak on the health pool side of things for Astralis, being unable to exchange that back, but as you mentioned, without actually locking in the kill. I doubt PB are going to take into account the shots they landed too heavily here. It's one-shot headshot. It's still very easy for the players at low HP to find just as much effectiveness as if they were sitting at full themselves. Koenig, of course, going to have his ire drawn towards Doc's position there, with him just having slammed open the window by Bust. Not going to see any immediate reaction, though. Neither team trying to make a play, but it's Blaz to strike first, finally. After about half the round transpires, Shuttle will end up being the first to fall on the mute for the defense. No immediate reaction to that from either side, though. Just a really composed hold from PB. They're waiting to see if there's going to be an aggressive swing, and it looks like we are going to get one towards White. Unfortunately, the angles don't work out here for PB to properly support each other, but Kool-Aid, the pixel trade onto Iconic. A nade going deep as well. That might do some damage. Looks like it banked the wrong way, though. And a nice defense being put out here by Jane. I know he stems the tide just a little bit further here. Locks us into a 3v3 with the trade onto the player, trying to push Study.
This is a scary round, and it could build up to be DP Fires. He's got a Twitch run on his feet, and it's actually going to turn on as soon as he looks back to shoot it. They're going to know that he's at the top of main, but do they know that Forrest is downstairs? Doc as well as Kool-Aid, both here. Forrest, he's got the timing, but I believe the sledge is going to check. Oh, Doc, does he have it? Oh, it's going to be the swing from the staircase instead. DP Fire, he's going to down one. More than likely knows it as well. Forrest, he's just going to stay patient here. Oh, what a stellar position from him. He can just sit here and delay this time, John. He does not need to try and get aggressive. They're going to pre-fire, and he's going to force to send some shots, but he's going to get the kill anyways. It's going to actually be Force that kills the downed man. Doc will fire back, but this timer's eating at them, practically even on health amongst all of the members considered here. Asians is going to be at the top of red stairs. He'll move in for the maps table. He might have gotten through the cracks. DP Fire will take down Doc. Are they aware? But he's not aware of J90 inside of Gun Vault. Astralis take the lead on the defensive end.
Way too little time at the end, unfortunately, for PB. Could not get their drones into the site for the 2v2. Was unable to figure out where those last two players had positioned from. And they were quite mobile as well, trying to constantly shift that. So a very tough game for PB to play out at the end. And that's not even considering, of course, the events that went down over by Mainsters. Great adjustment from Astralis to really crunch the push there. And once again, massive props to Astralis for the improvement, even from just their most recent game on this very same map, where we're seeing much better team play on the defense, much more workability between the players, and making sure they make up for the issues that they had last Wednesday.
I mean, hey man, that's what I'm saying. Like, Astralis does a lot of talking about how they are a team that is very confident in and of themselves, and they're here for greatness and all that kind of stuff, and that's great and that's grand. But you got to put your money where your mouth is, and that's what I expect out of these people. You know, you can talk as much as you want, but if you still suck at the game, then you're just egotistical for no reason at all. So, you know, I'm expecting a big bounce back, and that's what we're seeing thus far. You know, obviously both of these teams have been trying to figure themselves out in Stage 3. It's kind of been a discovery period. For Astralis, it's trying to recapture that same light that they had at the beginning of the stage. For Parabellum, it's a new dawn, right? It's a new day. They're trying to work with their two new players, and it's been going quite swimmingly, especially with Blast stepping in finally as well. I think Parabellum have been looking quite stellar, but is it good enough to get it over on AST with how this defense is starting to build?
Harder going to come out here as well for Asians. So this will be very interesting to see how the Gar hook potentially changes up the status quo for PB. Is going to be against the trophy as well as statuary defense. There's plenty of opportunities to use that from the outside. The window swings as well as quite a few other options. Sometimes a little bit of a buzzkill in the way that it's used is for a lot of these rounds, especially on this site, it's just kind of used for a quick hop into 90, and then that's really it from that point forward. But we'll wait and see. Sometimes we get some nice little chaos here, and we're going to get that to start.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, caught out right from the beginning of the round. Once again by Forrest, of course, so still keeping that entry stat nice and tidy for not only himself, but the Astralis roster overall.
It boggles my mind that this man is a hard breach / SAS operator player, and he has the most kills and most entries in the entirety of the NAL. That's just bonkers stats. DP Fire, Shuttle, Astralis as a whole. I mean, you really can't say the kill feeds lighten up red because they're both red, but I can tell you there's a lot of red on the ground, and it happens to be Parabellums. A flawless round for Astralis. You let them know, boys. Cool, calm, and collected on this bench right now, just looking to take this win, it seems.
PB just kind of stun-locked in that round as well, always trying to make plays to make up the difference when they lost players, but that never really seemed to be the right play, unfortunately, on the mid-set of that round there. And we'll predictably see them go into a timeout now, although arguably it's going to be a little bit too late potentially for that. Already seeing Astralis be 2 rounds ahead. You still have to win 2 more, of course, but PB needs to make some major changes, it seems, based on the way these first 2 rounds have played out. And it's going to be tough to do so, given the few mistakes that they're now allowed to make from this point forward.
Yeah, the first round, I think you can kind of just call it a toss-up, right? It just kind of didn't work out for Parabellum. There was definitely some plays that they could have made there to make the difference. But Astralis gets it over on them. When it comes to this round, though, completely different circumstances. Astralis have really found themselves here on Villa on this defense, and it's a quick timeout from Parabellum after that flawless, because can you really blame them? If Astralis ends up taking this round, they're on map point, and that's exactly what Parabellum are trying to avoid. They want to try and get this to a tie ball game or better at this current moment, especially if they can take this in regulation. Remember, that's 3 points. If Astralis gets this next round, then that obviously means that we are at least guaranteed overtime, and Parabellum's points will be stripped. Even if they win it, they'll only win 2 points instead of 3.
Very aggressive composition, at least initially showing for the PB roster. That's starting to shift quite heavily now.
It could be kind of problematic, too. You're having somebody kind of sneaky and somebody that's kind of showed off with some traps over here. So I like this a lot more than that, I'll be honest, because when you see a Thorn and a Frost, that's bad news bears.
Especially considering that potential Montaigne pick. Oh, no, it's back.
Oh,
we jinxed it a little bit there, so Kool-Aid's gone back towards it.
Oh no, Blaz. Oh, the IQ would have been so nice here, minus the frost traps. It would have been so great because he would have known exactly where those razor blooms are. So, well, looks like Kool-Aid's going to have his head on a swivel, hopefully not run into something that's going to slow him like a Banshee. I mean, that would just be terrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be rough for the Montaigne to do anything here, realistically, unless his teammates are able to clear out all the utility beforehand.
I read forward in the script. I'm foreshadowing.
We don't even have like the Rotero drones either to like easily insert them and be able to knock out some of the utility a little bit deeper into these sites when they realize it's going to become a problem. So I'm really worried that PB is going to run into a roadblock here and not be able to work their way past it. But obviously, let's hold our breath for a few moments and wait and see.
Absolutely. See, I'm more interested to see if they're going to try and use Blaz's logic bombs as a clearing mechanism or as a site execute mechanism, because that's really going to see or like show if these traps really pay off. Because if people are trying to be really aggro towards site and then they get caught off by a Frost Mat or a Razor Bloom or something like that, then you're probably going to end up with a few people down or really hurt that weren't exactly expecting it.
DP Fire, of course, going to take up position once again. Now the rotates have been made on the inside of Astro. You guys see that silhouette. There is a drone, I think potentially two drones that have been able to sneak their way into his area of the map. So they should have plenty of intel as to his position here. PB is going to make their first bid on the inside of Astro as well. Kool-Aid's here. Montaigne has made his first entry, but pretty much immediately he's attempting to be taken down as we see a Nitro go out from just below him there. Like we said before, there is a lot of utility that can trip up Kool-Aid here in the process of him trying to move forward as well. So he's going to have to be extra careful with every step he takes. Asian trying to assist him to the best of his capabilities, looking to pick up the trade onto Iconic. If he can find an Iconic, getting adventurous here, he's going to move forward. Oh, and he knocks one down, but the shield gets him in response. They'll have to try and move forward. If they can take out Kool-Aid, there's a chance they bring him back. But meanwhile, Blaz and Kool-Aid are just cleaning things up. Kool-Aid finally getting the finisher off onto Iconic, and then Blaz with one more. PB takes the duel inside of the bathroom and shuts it all down.
All of the traps were on site, or a little weird Frost Mat over there, and I do believe Astro, but that was about it.
Yeah, and they take the fight.
Yeah.
Every single time over here towards Baster.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is they were trying to be aggressive to try and get the big picks off of Monty. That's what you're really trying to do. Monty is hyper lethal in situations where A, you're distracted and he's able to get his shield slid back up, or B, where there's people that are able to play around him because you're having to deal with his threat and then like maybe, you know, two other guns trying to collapse on top of you. Those are the two big issues when you're trying to play around a Monty. So especially for like Iconic there, I think he makes the right play. He makes the aggressive play, gets the swing onto the Nook. Asian goes down. He gets traded out, but the big issue is that Astralis are so hyper-focused on that situation and what's going on over there with the trade and him being down that we immediately see Blaz spring two and pick up two big kills inside of Master, and that's really the pace setter for the rest of the round. Parabellum able to take down Astralis in the clutch there, even though it was tied ball game, at least man count-wise. 3-3. So Astralis not able to get that fateful round just yet, but looking for their penultimate here in round 10.
Let's see if they can get the job done. A few more changes have come in for PB yet again as well, though ultimately they returned to a very similar lineup that they had on the previous round as well. I mean, it worked, and it worked swimmingly as well. So no reason not to bring it back to the fold again, as I believe we've also seen Astralis fall back on the same site fold. Let's see on a moment for that one, though. Forrest gets the lineup, just doesn't get enough shots into Doc, unfortunately, and this is not a position you want to stick around in long term. He'll quickly back away from that. Doesn't go for the check on the drone hole, see if he would have gotten lucky with the positioning on Doc, but doesn't end up happening. Doc obviously freezes up as soon as those shots hit him, and he makes sure that he falls back into a much safer spot to play this out. Forrest, though, still in the area near Mudroom, so we might not be done over there just yet.
I like the big swings initially from Astralis. Forces Parabellum to respect these windows. And you can see that right now. Look at Kool-Aid. He's repelled on the wall, making sure no one's going to try and challenge the bathroom window. Who even does that? Think about that for a second. Who's going to run through bathroom and hop out? I mean, well, Fofo-san is still alive, but Doc is not. The sledge is down. They still have this Monty working its way through, but Astralis, they've already gotten their kill, Parabellum. They don't really care anymore. They're going to move back towards site and force you to try and play this out with a guy that has a big shield and not really a gun.
So we're going to be on AVG, just to correct myself for something I mentioned earlier on in the round. Got Asian lined up now, ready to make that first entry if he gets a peek from Astralis, but has not been met with the response he needs just yet here. Still waiting for the opportunity to come, and it may be here now in the form of J90. He's here first, though, ready to take the challenge. So now our attacker on the other side here does need to be careful as well. Iconic! Oh, he got him! To take him down, and he is going to be able to get it. Obviously took that second peek to be able to lock in the frag itself. Asian engaged in a fight also. Blaz will be able to win one out against Forrest. Downs him deeper into the actual site. Iconic will now have to fall back deeper into it to make up for that position. And of course, because he's at low HP, doesn't really want to be stuck out here for any longer. Things traded out quite evenly, but Astralis still holds the advantage now at a 4v3 as we come down to the final minute of play. And the first of those logic bombs comes in, or rather the second of those logic bombs comes in.
Kool-Aid getting caught in the perfect cross from Astralis. 90 position as well as Red Stairs. Have to look 90 degrees to the left or to the right, John, and that exposes your back to the other. That's exactly what you want when trying to force a Monty into a bad position. And now Parabellum, well, they're feeling the burn. Still have some smokes instead of DP Fire's pocket as well to try and hold off these doors. Parabellum will work their way in through the initial parts of the gates, but they're going to go quite deep here. DP Fire will at least get one. Blaz will make his presence known inside of Study, taking down Iconic. It's a 2 versus 3. DP Fire out of his last smoke. No more utility available to Astralis to try and prevent this play from going on. Eska's going to have to look for more. He'll be able to get more. J90 goes down. It's now a 2 versus 2. Blaz has the cut. He's got the swing. He's got a DP Fire. Can he get the flank? He can! Parabellum tie it up here on Villa. It's 5-5.
Parabellum not giving up until the end of this game. They bring it back indeed to a tied scoreline. The players on Astralis seem to have the edge for that hold, but when it came to the insight play, fall to pieces despite the 4v3 advantage. Beautifully done here, especially from Eska, working himself on the entry next to Blaz there. Able to get themselves onto the ground, able to get themselves into the site, and Blaz once again excelling for this team, as we've seen him do time after time in the past, making himself into a nice superstar for this game. Astralis, though, is going to call for the tactical timeout. Things are getting a little bit dodgy now, so they need to figure out what exactly is going wrong and quickly correct before they potentially lose one or all of their points if they can't close this out in regulation.
A crazy info difference there, going the way of Parabellum. Some solid drones inside of sight, picking out a couple of the Astralis members, and not only that, but Blaz getting that play across planes, like what we saw out of Fofo's son, dashing towards the top of red. It's the exact opposite from red to Study, and he holds down that area. 3 kills, and I believe leading into the 4th kill there at the very tail end, picking off every single Astralis member in the site and abound to end up winning Parabellum that round. Just wow. I mean, really, especially the way that he's able to get around AST. That's a very bold move to try and just sprint full bore across that and hope nobody's calling it, or holding it rather. So speaking of calling things, guys, we're going to have to call for a tech timeout really quickly because there's a little bit of a drone bug. So we'll get that fixed and then we'll hop back in at a 5-5 scoreline between Astralis and Parabellum.
Yep, just going to take a few moments, folks, and it's still been a very good game up until this point. So make sure you stick around for it. We apologize for having to drop out, but I just want to make sure that we were playing in a competitively viable environment, so we are going to restart that round real quick just to make sure that everything is up to snuff. Away from that, though, Astralis needing to make up once again for their own issues on this defensive side. You can tell the adjustments they've made from the previous week, trying to play into each other a lot more, making sure that in the event that those superstars go down, and again, I don't think we're having necessarily the same issue as the previous match day where again, they're like super reliant on Iconic or Forest to make plays. We're definitely seeing some of the other players line up for it as well, but still, once again, needing those superstars to come into the fold means that we've had to see the team change their play style, and it's led into a few situations where they're unfortunately kind of stepping over each other, and that has allowed for PB to sneak in quite a few other wins as well to bring us to this current scoreline.
Yes, indeed. And the other thing, I mean, past that, is that we have not seen a lot of planting in this game.
No, this
has been a full-on DM.
This has been like full-on, like, oh, we're taking this fight.
Yeah.
Like no one's seen a fight usually, and no one's seen a fight and been like, let's fall back to our site and use all this nice little utility we set up here 2 minutes ago. Like, that's not a very common causality in this game so far.
I think we've really only seen Astralis go for a big play like that on one of their defenses. I think it was actually that one we just saw where they got the big pick and then fell back, and then Blaz just decimates them once he gets control of Study.
And then I can only really think of like 1 or 2 times that PB even did that.
Yeah. So it was kind of a back and forth in that sense. And you can chalk that up to a bunch of different things, right? Sometimes you do want to be a little bit more aggressive and go for those big plays because I mean, if you catch somebody off guard, like both of these teams are trying to do, right? Like that's what all these timing swings are, is them being like, I bet they don't expect this. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're Forest and it always works out. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? I'm telling you, somebody check his computer. This is not real. Like, it's pretty. That's why we're actually having the tech pause. I didn't tell you guys. My bad.
Yeah, I believe we're pretty close to getting this restarted, folks. So we've got everybody back in the lobby now, and we are launching. Obviously, we're going to make sure we don't have that same bug popping up again. So just give us like another minute or two to make sure we're good. But assuming that that's all green lit, we will be good to jump back into this one. If you are just joining us, it's currently a 5-5 scoreline between these two teams. We're obviously still in regulation. That means the full 3 points for this game are still on the line, but that could very easily change here, as I would say overtime is looking very, very likely.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, especially with the way that Parabellum's bounced back on this offense thus far, I think it's really caught Astralis off guard. Just how willing they are to continue fighting even when they are down a man. You know, and this is something that was a highlight, a hallmark of Astralis' gameplay throughout the year, that they are always willing to take a fight with you. They are very scrappy, and not only that, but they'll more than likely decimate your entire team in the process and end up winning out a round, you know, with 2 bodies still up. So it's some pretty crazy stuff, but I can definitely see that a lot of teams have been respecting that about Astralis and kind of working that into their own play where, you know, there's never a dull moment. There's never any downtime. You're always looking for that next step that's going to push you to be successful at the end of the round.
We've got AVG on deck again for Astralis to try and fix the issues from the previous round here. He'd be able to sneak off a win not only here, of course, back on round 10, but on round 9, winning over inside of Trophy and Stat as well. So Astralis don't really have like a strong site to fall back on at the moment, unfortunately, unless they're going to be a bit more confident in their downstairs holds, which I would assume the fact that they're going back to AVG a second time means that they're probably not necessarily. Could also be wanting again just to retry things in AVG.
Forrest is addicted to this. Just over inside a mudroom, waiting on the window for the sledge the prior round. Now he's all the way over in Laundry, and he might go for the run out here. There's nobody on the receiving end of this. Actually, at a second glance, Blaz is waiting for him. Oh my gosh. He's got everything lined up, and the stars now aligned for Parabellum to take down the leading entry fragger on Astralis.
Nicely done for PB here. Forrest down and out for the count. It's just going to be the Malusi, so no huge utility loss is sustained. Astralis are smart, obviously, in that respect to make sure that they don't make the same mistake. Did have an explosion here. I'm going to assume that this was an early Goyo canister getting knocked out. Potentially a nade from down below as well. Yeah, that nade's going to be a little bit short. Unfortunately, they try to take down that canister a bit deeper. So
you get the shield or the canister.
I think that, I think those are actually just both of the nades now that I'm looking at it a bit deeper. Yeah, and so no utility knocked out. Unfortunately, both of the nades from Doc are essentially wasted. Just make someone shuffle out of position for a few extra seconds and without any execution to follow that up. Not really going to call that a successful use of utility at the end of the day.
Quite interesting front here from Parabellum. They're still really concerned about this north side. They have the case all the way on the south, but they're trying to clear out Shuttle here. He's got a lot of goo mines around the space, and potentially some more bogeys working their way up. Oh my god, what an angle from Blaz. They'll take down Shuttle at a moment's notice. Iconic's now here though, the savior of this time. He'll take down Blaz and at least make this palatable for Astralis. J90 getting back. Iconic with a big Nitro Cell play. His number's been called up and he's making his presence known. He does not want Parabellum taking this lead back.
Iconic, huge differential being made up right now here, both from the Nitro Cell play and, of course, the pick he found outright. Surprised that PB didn't catch him jumping down below and tried to follow him a little bit more closely. Maybe they did and we just didn't see it, but kind of looked like they ignored him. As I assume they would have been able to catch his jump down, just given the spray he did when he went over the banister. But either way, back down into a 3v3 now. Most of Astralis has fallen back to the site itself, with Iconic being the one glaring exception to that. Fire as well as J90, though, I believe are going to be in the confines of the site itself. As you can see, Bookcase being played for quite heavily by one of those members of Astralis right now here. PB attempting to contest against it, but Toxic Babe holding them back, wasting the time away, and a great swing again. These dash peaks are constantly getting the better of the players on PB. Another one found from Iconic. That's his third on the round. Doc alone. Let's see if he can make up for the blunder earlier on the nades, and unfortunately just not going to happen. J90 with too strong of a hold in Gun Vault. It's Astralis first to map point.
Iconic, like a hero out of a comic book, sprints across the map and immediately takes it to Parabellum. They think they have control of this portion of the map, but the Goyo, on a lone Mission Impossible-esque moment, is able to take down a multitude of Parabellum members. That initial shot that we see onto Blaz immediately jumps downstairs, big Nitro Cell play, and then plays out an entire flank moment downstairs in the bottom of Villa. This is what this map was intended for, John. It's for moments like this where one player can just take control. What a highlight from Iconic there, and definitely one that we'll be talking about if they're able to take this in 7-5 fashion.
Well, yeah, they're going to need to do it 2 times in a row, and like I mentioned before, they are going to need to finally proceed to the downstairs hold. Also not feeling confident in the trophy play, given how Parabellum was able to give us kind of a masterclass on how to take control of that one, especially with Astralis being baited into quite a few of the fights.
this is going to be really, really awkward given the circumstances of hard breach. This is why we saw PB with some pretty solid success the last time with their aggressive looks towards a lot of these reinforcement panels, because remember, you have to get on the panel currently in order to blow it up. There's not a single hard breacher in the game with these bans implemented that can actually do that from a window. So Astralis is going to take a page out of PB's book, and they're going to actually end up going to kitchen, open up a few of these longer lines of sight, and try and take these fights with Parabellum. This should be a pretty action-packed one.
Let's see here, out Parabellum. He's going to look to clear out this trickier setup from Astralis. Quite detached on quite a few of their players, so there is going to be opportunities to catch them with them. More than likely catch them without trades going out against them as well if Parabellum is able to succeed and pick up the kills quickly enough, but that will shift pretty rapidly throughout the rest of this round here. So a lot of focus going to be on Forest extension way over in towards Piano. As I'll have quite a bit of crunch capability once PB starts to shift past the usual second floor clear that they're going to be going for right now. That obviously pushes against players such as the one sitting over in Astro. DP Fire going to have to figure out how to handle that over the next few moments, but it's when they finally get past that point and get ready to move down onto the first floor that things get really tricky, and potentially we could see PB get crushed out if they're not careful.
Yeah, Parabellum going for the measure twice, cut once method. They're taking their time. Now the big thing is that this can go severely wrong if they end up going for such a time sink with the info game initially and trying to go for a harsh execute. If they get taken out, at least two of them here initially on this entry, that can be the round easily going to Astralis. Some nades out here, DP Fire trying to play for Astro window. He'll get back in behind this shield. Astralis so far, they've stuck to their guns and stuck to their morals as well. They're not over peaking. They're forcing Parabellum to do exactly what the offense should be doing. Being offensive, get aggressive, get in the building, get something done. But we're already halfway through this round, and it's all been window repels and droning for PB thus far.
PB again, just nowhere near enough confidence to be able to make these plays deeper into the building itself. Way too much presence still alive and well for the players on Astralis. Only seeing that pantry control down on the first floor for PB so far. And even then, I don't think they've necessarily hopped the window yet. I still think they're actually sitting outside waiting to drone things out. We're at less than a minute now, folks, to go here, and PB is only just starting to enter the building itself. Still so many different play potentials being made out here for Astralis as well. They've spread out all over the map.
Oh my god, they're planting.
Where are they even planting? Like laundry push, right? Surely it has to be, but as they moved in, no, it's going to be coming from Pantry instead. They were able to get through it as well. The Matrix from Astralis is spread out too far, but they're coming back into it now. DP Fire picking up two with his teammate, and no, it's not enough. PB wrap it up instead, and they sneak the plan in from Pantry. As you said, measure twice, cut once. I don't even know if they really fully cut it, to be honest with you, but it got the job done either way, and it's triggered overtime.
Nah, that wasn't a cut. That was a sever. That's what that was right there. Yeah, rip and tear. Oh my, Parabellum. They tie things up. They send us to overtime. And I didn't see it going down like that. Astralis, they're a much more polished team than that. Allowing Parabellum right into their home. There's less than a minute left. There's 5 bodies up for Astralis at that moment. That plant starts going down with all 5 Astralis members still breathing air, John. That should not be happening.
You got to be careful with those types of extended plays that we saw come out from Astralis on that round. Oftentimes, you leave far too little on the actual site, and plants like that can occur. Not the first time we've seen that happen as well. PB nicely caught those, used a lot of their time on drones in order to find that opportunity, but indeed, the gamble on playing the intel game pays off hugely for them, as it not only gives them another round, of course, but it saves their lives in this matchup quite literally, and has guaranteed now at least a single point if they're not able to follow through with these next 2.
Yeah, it's just a really awkward round for Astralis, really. I love what Parabellum did there. They, again, made it awkward for Astralis, right? Astralis, especially going down to that lower timer, though, you really have to start having that sixth sense of, okay, the closer this gets to 0 timer, the more and more they have to just force this into sight. Now, at 55 seconds, obviously, they can still try and take top control. They have a buck, they have a sled, they can just try and rip that floor open super fast and you know, try and take it away from you that way, force that plant at 0 timer. So I understand, you know, more of the circumstantial map control-esque play from Astralis, but just leaving your home completely open and allowing anybody come in, you know, just steal your porridge, man. Shouldn't be doing that.
Big mistake from Astralis is going to cost them on the standings here. Now we'll see if they can try to make up the difference to still be able to claim the majority of points in this matchup, or if PB can steal the whole pie outright by taking the 2-1 trade. Bad timing for Iconic here as he checks down the stairs. Meanwhile, Blaz has already made it to the top. He shuts him down for free. That's going to be a good start to the round for the defense, but and Forrest just has no fear whatsoever. And as well, his timing continues to be impeccable, as I'm pretty sure he caught Blaz just when he turned his back to run around Bookcase.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he blows me away every single time he makes a play like this. This is stuff that I would never consider doing in my existence. I'm just saying. Gonna get a drone onto red, and Forrest is gonna work his way up towards Boar here. Try and hold a longer sight in towards Trophy. There is a single panel reinforcement with Kool-Aid playing a little bit closer inside of the actual site, and he's gonna have quite a bit of utility to try and deal with an aggressive push out of Forrest if he so chooses. He does have some stuns, and fortunately enough, for his sake, there's not a single bit of utility on the defense that can prevent him from stunning out Kool-Aid, but a bullet surely can if he does catch him in time. J9O will obviously be trying to work benches on the other end, while Astralis try and update their info and see where they can try and push through some of Parabellum's cracks.
Coming down to the last minute of play, so Astralis is more than likely going to start to speed things up here over the next 30 to 40 seconds. Set themselves up for that final execute, although they do still have the extra time to drone things out. Like I said, they need to start taking up positions to get themselves ready for the final swing to go into the actual site. Eska will be caught out as well here. Good opener from Fars as it eliminates the potential threat of those yokai drones, especially when you consider the IQ was not brought this time by Astralis. Shuttle taking some heat, more likely from a Toxic Bane. We can see it there now. Over here outside of the connector. It's going to get real confusing for a second as Doc tries to stabilize things now toward that connector itself, but he's missed it. They've all made their way in, but still, they're not able to punish him. He gets the finisher onto the already down player and knocks out a second one. That's now left J9O as the only other member alive here for Astralis. PB once again has been set up for success. They just need to take it for themselves. J9O should have been able to see Asian working his way back out over towards top red. Won't know where he went from there, though, and that's the big issue. He's just grasping at straws here right now. There's no time to play into drones. I'm going to assume that... Oh, what a snapshot! Hold on! The hop over the top to shut down Asian gives the round to Astralis. What a clutch as they refuse to give up here as well.
Just take the fight, Asian! Just take the fight! Astralis, and specifically J9O, he plays it down to the wire. What a round from him. Oh my God. DP fired down, shuttle gone, and then J9O has to try and play tag with both of the remaining Parabellum players around the entirety of site. They play around the case, John, but somehow that goes awry. They're not ready for J9O to process what is happening in the moment. And he takes out both of them, giving Astralis the lead. It's 7-6. They're looking to take this in OT.
One more to go for Astralis, of course. PB now looking to bounce back over the next 2 rounds, but they need to be won outright. One on the attack, one on the defense here. Repick is going to show up for Asian. He's going to work himself over onto those Rotero drones instead of bringing the Nook to sneak themselves in. This will probably make pretty good sense when you consider that we are going to be going for another AVG hold from Astralis. They need to take out some of that interior site utility if they're able to get themselves in position for normal execute. That's not the way this game has played out so far, that we very rarely had a quote-unquote normal execute, so we'll have to wait and see how effective those will be, as he doesn't even end up going for it at the end of the day. We'll switch towards the Twitch when everything is said and done.
This match feels like you went to a concert and the opener, you didn't know them, right? You're just like, I really don't know if this is going to be good, and then they just set the place on fire, and you're like, I don't really know how. I went to go see like the Goo Goo Dolls.
They ended up being better than the headliners.
Yeah, right, exactly, and you're just like, oh my God. So I don't know how the rest of the day is going to stand up to this, but I can definitely tell you I am fully awake. There's a lot of adrenaline pumping through these veins right now, and you can probably say the same about both of these respective units. Astralis looking to build this up on defense for the last time here. Eska is going to have the opportunity of an aggressive peek coming his way. Shuttle will not end up getting anything on the receiving or delivering end, as there's just nobody home. He's going to back off the window. Some stuns out now. I think that they might know that Shuttle's actually in here, so he might be in hot water, although it might be unbeknownst to him.
Shuttle just patiently waiting this one out. Hoping he gets the hop. He gets it, but
God.
He can't get the shot. He overpeaks by just a tiny amount, and Doc is able to come back into it on the reswing when those shots come out. Take him down. Kool-Aid gonna send out the well played as well for his fight. It transpires. There's another frag is given over to the players from PB. Forrest, though, it's the first response back from Astralis. Things are getting epic right at the start of this game, right at the start of this round. We're going to have to try and get some control over it here. Astralis, of course, having to fall back deeper into the depths of their hold as they're now at a disadvantage down to the 3v4 with J9O pretty decently injured as well.
Yeah, you'd think that's what would happen, don't you, John? But it's Astralis.
I hope that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I highly doubt it happens. I really do. I think that we're going to see another gunfight before we even hit like the 50 mark, really. Kool-Aid, quite low right now. Forrest trying to take it to bathroom. See, I told you, like, we are not resting on our laurels here. We are going for aggressive fights. Even though Forrest will go down, Parabellum wants to tie this up yet again. Another swing out here from Astralis. They're going hunting. J9O, he's looking for Eska. He knows he's in the area. He's a lion in the bushes, and he'll take down the AST member. It's 7-7.
Even with a 90-degree angle, still not able to get the kill there on the final player. Unfortunate for the players over on Astralis as they come so close to victory, but are shut down pretty much instantaneously here. It all starts with Shuttle's play, unfortunately, and continues to evolve from that point forward. Astralis, we push to the edge once again as we go to a fully loaded map here. 15 rounds to settle this one, of course, at that 7-7 scoreline.
I didn't get any word. I'm going to assume it's a tech pause. I'm assuming.
Both packs have been used, so
yeah. We're just pausing straight up, and then our OBS user said ratio. So I don't really know what the spectators are doing right now. Yeah. We actually do end up having a tech pause, guys. So
I think it's something going on with Forrest.
Yeah, we're gonna get things fixed up here, and then we'll be right back into this absolute barn burner to start the day. They are setting Villa on fire right now. Hopefully, it doesn't expand and go out to those beautiful wheat fields out to the west-hand side, but we'll have to see.
All right, looks like we're good to go and get back into the game. Good thing, too. I didn't want this pause to go on for too long. Both these teams are amped up right now. Kind of a double-edged sword going to a pause like this. For some players, it's great because it's like, all right, now I can chill out for a second, kind of like calm myself down. Some players get all jittery.
That's when you're like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And they pick up the water and their hands just shaking.
But then you have players who are on the opposite side of that spectrum, too, that are like, no. I need to, like, stay in the zone, and you're pulling me out of it right now. So depending on the player you are, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll only be able to know when we get back into the game. I think it's time for that, though, as we've just unpaused it. So let's head back into it. The final round, regardless of who wins it, they will take this map. They'll only be taking 2 points, though, and their opponents will be getting 1, of course, as we've made it to overtime.
It's all down to this. In the next 3 minutes and 40 seconds, we will know who exactly is the king of the day on Villa between Astralis and Parabellum. And what a journey it's been so far. We've had a lot of highlight moments. I'd say for Astralis across the board, they're just looking as a more tight-knit team. They're getting a lot done, and the frag department especially across the board. Big plays out of J9O, some solid moments out of DP Fire. Shuttle still a little bit quieter, but I'd like to see his total stats. It's been kind of difficult to keep track of those. I'd really like to see those at the end of the game to see really how he ended up turning out. But you could say the same for Parabellum, especially when you're looking at the likes of like Doc and Blaz. They have been doing so much heavy lifting for this team. Asian, not so much. He had a really, really rough start, but again, once we get those total stats at the end, it'll tell more of what we've been seeing throughout this fantastic game here for, Playday 5.
It's been far from perfect for both of these teams so far, but that has made it somewhat entertaining as well. Definitely going to be a lot to review once both of these teams get back to their houses and are able to take a look at the VOD. So betting there'll be a good amount of time spent using this one to prep, especially for Astralis. So they definitely seem to want to play onto Villa a lot, especially as of the past 2 weeks, obviously. But they definitely still have some improvements to make, especially from their defensive side. Thankfully for them, they got the attacking side for this final round. That'll give them a little bit of an edge, in my opinion. Pretty straightforward lineup to bring to bear on this one as well. Finally bringing the hard breach in that they had been missing for most of the regulation time. DP Fire not going to take a risk on that this time as he just brings the Thermite outright. We're also seeing a very similar lineup from PB that we had seen in the past. Bit more freedom than Kool-Aid, of course. He's going to bring the Alibi. It's a little bit more of an unfamiliar pick. I think we only saw it like once or twice in regulation. Everything else, though, is very much something that we'd seen plenty of back down in the previous half.
Yes, indeed. PB trying to slow down.
Oh, that was so casual.
And yes, indeed, it was. Blaz placed that Nitro Cell right at the foot of the door for Study upstairs. So as seen immediately when he heard anybody step on wood, J9O gets blown sky high. That's all it takes.
Didn't even look
at
at
what he stepped on. Yep, that's it. That's all you need. So that's going to mean Astralis are down their Ash that just made a fantastic play to put them into this position at match point. Blaz is going to make it even worse here as Shuttle will go down. It's a 3 versus 5, and Astralis have to beg to get out of this hole.
And I mean, we're looking at PB, right? They've barely moved this entire time, just holding so far positions that Astralis Astralis have not been able to figure out, and unfortunately have baited themselves into at least 2 times here now to lead to their elimination. The first one, obviously, not much that player could do, just an unfortunate Nitro cell position that they did not catch, either due to their teammates not droning it properly or them choosing not to. The second one, though, where things start to get a little bit less forgivable for Astralis here and how they're making these mistakes and how very potentially they could end up dropping the game. Blaz with another opportunity to pick up a 3rd kill there. The timing does not align though, but they have not realized he's here, I don't think, so he still has the capability to crunch late round if he's even going to be needed. Asian has picked up the 3rd kill. DP fires down. It's up to the 2 superstars here, Forest and Iconic, to make up the difference, but Iconic already down on the ground. Forest caught as he tries to hop in the window as well. Astralis goes down with a whipper on the final round, and PB take the map.
Wow, that's that last round. Very awkward for Astralis, just could not get it back after that lead-off Nitro cell kill. Starts the domino effect, constantly losing big fights and never really having any map control to begin with. I mean, even looking down to Iconic and kind of how that the last 2 Lone Souls of Astralis were taking fights. They really only had bike control, you know, just trying to work their way into Tarbs, but there's way too many Parabellum members patrolling the building for them to get away with something so simplistic. PB end up taking it 8-7 after being down 2 rounds and having to come back and force overtime.
Really smart play overall throughout the course of this series coming in from Parabellum, especially again on that last run, slowing things down, wanting to capitalize, of course, on the kind of, not necessarily indecision from Astralis, but more so kind of their eagerness to jump into the fray, wanting to take fights, wanting to clear early map control, and that cost them at least 2 players in those first 2 minutes. Great game played out. Looks got any final points here before we close things down?
Yeah, I think Penguin made it by just by the skin of his teeth. You know, it was his first pick, and it's an 8-7. Yeah, it's in favor of Parabellum, but I think Astralis beat themselves today, John.
All right, well, that'll do it for the 2 of us right now. We're going to be back for the next game, but for the time being, we're going to throw you guys to a short break, and we'll come back to your analysis desk to break this game down and get you ready for the second one.
Welcome back to the Rainbow Six North American League, and that is how I like to start the week. Tight match, 8-7 victory for Parabellum, and over in Vegas, we have Kool-Aid waiting to chat with us a little bit about that one. Can't wait to hear what his thoughts are. Kool-Aid, that was as close as it gets, but you got the win, you got the job done. How important was it to get the win today for Parabellum stage?
I mean, it was definitely important. I mean, as Pink said on the broadcast earlier, like, week 3 is a make or break it. Last week was a stumble that, I mean, it was honestly on us. Our coaches prepared us and everything. We just didn't execute properly. So for that, I take responsibility. So I'm sorry for last week. But yeah, it was important to get back into the groove. And hopefully we can carry that on to tomorrow.
Kool-Aid, I want to pick your brain a little bit about those bans, because obviously you guys started them off, you take Ace out the board, and then Astralis followed up with that Habana ban, obviously targeting you a little bit with those attacker bans. Was that something that you were expecting? Did you have any idea that would happen? And how did you adapt to that once you actually got onto attack?
I mean, we didn't expect the Habana ban. That's why I was pulling out the funny ops. But yeah, I mean, the Ace, it was between Ace and Flores, because we know they can't clear utility like a team. But DP is really good on Ace, and I mean that stunts a lot of their mid round, because they like to flex around, go around a bunch of places. So, but no, we weren't expecting the Habana ban.
My question's more so for like what Sonar said in the timeout, because I know, like you said, you guys weren't ready for the Habana ban. I know Habana is like a huge part of your attacks, and I know bringing Monty isn't in the PB strat book normally. So I just want to know what was said in the timeout and kind of like what the thought process with the Monty was.
I mean, honestly, it was like Sonar, he just made sure our comms were up and whatnot. It was kind of slipping, and I mean that's gonna happen with a new team, but I mean it shouldn't happen. So, but yeah, for the Monty, I mean we just wanted to play bully ball against them. They're not really good, or like they started playing like a Goyo and more site oriented to waste our time. They had a pre-play smoke on the round, and we just like smoked them. But no. The Monty wasn't in the original game plan. It was a call. So yeah.
Okay, so you've had 5 games with the 2 new guys so far, and I want to get it from the perspective of somebody who's been with this team for basically ever as far as Parabellum is concerned. How are the new guys working out? Is it an easy thing, or has it been easy to work them into your existing system? How's it been with those guys so far?
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure how we got them. They were the 2 best players in TL by far. It didn't make sense to us. So, but yeah, adjusting from having Peng, who's really vocal, honestly, like, I mean, that was one of the roughest changes of my life, or like of my career. Sorry, didn't mean to make it sound so dramatic, but wow. yeah, it was a big change, and I mean, everyone needed to step up. Last week we slipped. We weren't practicing as hard, and that's totally on us. But yeah, it was a big change. But Doc and Asian are, like, bar none, one of the some of the best players in the world. So, yeah.
All right, well, the new addition's working out for sure today against Astralis. It was close, but you got the win. Congrats again on the victory, and good luck tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
That's it.
You do. All right. Kool-Aid from Parabellum helping the squad get the 8-7 victory. It was Blaz, though, that was really kind of the main storyline of this one, I feel like.
There's not that many times you ever see somebody get 21 or 20-plus kills at any point, really, in an NAL Playday, so the fact that he did that is insane.
Did it against Alaska to get close. Against Forest, got 22 last week.
What is it with Villa and you just dropping a 20 bomb? We've literally seen that in back-to-back Playdays.
Yeah.
Something in the map, maybe something in the water in Italy. It does seem to hype players up. You know, I really think Parabellum kind of needed that. We did have a bit of a poor performance from Asian today, 4-12. Not something that we've seen from him in previous games. I mean, sometimes as a new player, you know, he's going to have matches like this, and it's important that they've got other teammates like Blaz, like Kool-Aid, who can step up and take back those rounds, even if he's dying early.
Yeah, I think this game was also like, with it being an 8-7 overtime game, I think it does kind of screw like Parabellum and Astralis a little bit.
True.
Obviously, all these teams would want to get 3 points, and I think like as the weeks go on, these 1 points, 2 points you lose are going to start to make the difference.
Yeah, I'm curious how that shifts things around a little bit. With Astralis losing in overtime, they're only up to 7. With Parabellum getting 2 points, technically it does put them, for right now, back up into 4th because they got 2 points and it was so close in the middle. But yeah, I think even though, but what, stage 2 was insane because we had so many teams that were separated by only so many points. It'll probably be the same here, even though there may be less teams that actually can contend in that same spot. We know who our bottom 2 teams are, but the middle, 7 is about to be crazy.
You've got that interesting dynamic, right, this stage, where some teams had very slow starts, and now you've got some of those teams catching up. That contests some of the teams on top to keep the momentum going, which not all of them are going to be able to do. So you still end up with a close stage, just kind of in a different way than we did in stage 2. Yeah, it was interesting. So there you go. It's an 8-7 victory for Parabellum. We've got a couple replays to take a look at, and actually it's 2 from the same round. There's just a lot to talk about this round-wise. So first of all, we're going to send Jesse over to the telestrator to break down the first part of what made round 10 significant.
Yes, Doa, indeed. We're going to talk about this a little bit because this is one of those rounds where, as Kool-Aid was talking about in the interview, his main operator got banned out, and so they had to come up with some stuff on the fly. One of those things was the Monty. So we're going to take a look at one of those Montaigne rounds and how it kind of didn't go well, at least at the start, for Parabellum. This is going to be, I believe, loaded into round number 10, where they're trying to push into Aviator Games. They're going to be coming from the north-hand side to get in onto that bomb site. And so far in this round, they've done a good job, as you can see, of clearing the north half of this map. Most of the master bedroom side, the trophy stat, are cleared out. And as we press play on this replay, what we're going to be able to see is Kool-Aid trying to contest here in onto this kind of landing doorway coming in from Boar. So we'll see as they start to get going here. Notice the 2 players that are going to really start to contest this are Iconic down here over by the stairs, and then they're going to have one player coming up through 90 as well, who's going to be able to create a nice little pinch onto Kool-Aid here in the doorway. And he's going to get on his drone. Drone gets shot. He goes for this peek anyways, and it's unfortunate that Parabellum don't have any pressure on Iconic, no pressure on DB Fire. You could be on the window here. You could be down below on red stairs, but it's unfortunate they don't have players in either of those positions. I think they recognize that. But you can see they're pushing down on these bottom red stairs eventually, but it's a little bit too slow. If they'd had that a little bit earlier, maybe they kill more than just Forest. Maybe they're able to pressure Iconic a little bit more. That might allow the Montana to kind of focus in on one area rather than trying to fight 2 players at once. If there was any more support for Kool-Aid there, that might have helped out a little bit. But unfortunately for Astralis, this is not the end of the round. And as we finish up this replay here, I think the desk might be able to break down what happens next.
That's right. Thanks, Jesse. So, Jacob, Penguin, we do have a second part of this one because round 10 got a little bit crazy after that. It looked like dire straits for Parabellum, but maybe that wasn't the case.
I just love the fact that Blaz has perfect overwatch over exactly where this plant is meant to go down, and Eska also takes a second to come off the plant, which we all thought he was going to go for right by immediately in front of AV door. Instead, pulls back off of it and actually has a moment where he's able to save the round for PB. So if we can get back into the latter part of this round, you'll see exactly how he repositions himself and then how Parabellum are able to take advantage whenever that replay comes up. We'll show you.
Yeah, I think Parabellum played the 2v3 beautifully. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a 2v3. And I think they made all the correct decisions. If you go through it, you can see this is the correct decision, this is the correct decision, and
here we go.
We'll go over it.
Yeah, so Eska's sitting over on the right-hand side, doesn't want to move because of the smoke, but there still is a man advantage here, and Blaz has to watch between both the rest of games through the hole and the study door. He doesn't really have that many options. Eska decides to take the swing on J9 and immediately goes right back to the same spot to plant, and now Astralis have to move. They know they need to push. Theoretically, at the same time would be nice. Blaz gets DP, immediately swings right back to the study door, takes care of Shuttle at the exact same time. It doesn't happen if Eska doesn't take the swing back to Vault and then go right back into the plant spot. Probably not the thing that I think J9 in Shuttle is expecting at that exact moment, but he gets the kill, swings back around, it falls down to Blaz to get those last 2 frags to keep everything covered. He does a phenomenal job.
Absolutely, and I think if Eska, his timing was perfect. If Eska, baits a plant or, sticks a plant halfway, the timing's ruined. The guy flanks main stairs, Blaz gets swung from, the site. So I think Eska, getting the kill first and then reassessing and then planting again was, they made all the correct decisions. Blaz turned around, looked at main stairs, they knew where everyone was, and, they won the round because of it.
So you won a 2v3, man.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. In a battle of inches like this game was, it really does come down to little things like that to get the win. And that's exactly what Parabellum did. That's exactly what got them the big W today. But you know what? We're only getting started here on NAL. That's right, 4 more games, so do not go anywhere. It's going to be an exciting one coming up. TSM versus Oxygen. Oxygen, if they're going to get anything done this stage, it needs to start today. We'll see if they can do that in just a few.